Let me know if you need any help, Polly said, brushing crumbs from the side of her mouth and closing the magazine, putting it back under the counter. Never mind red carpet glamour, she had a shop to run and the Christmas preparations to organise. Anna glanced at the clock, which hung on the wall above Polly's head. I'd better get back. There's a Christmas show at the nursery school, and I promised I'd be there to bump up the numbers. I swear Christmas gets earlier every year. Polly, who'd been playing Christmas tunes on the farm shop speakers for the last few weeks, gave a rueful smile as she looked at the wooden tree ornaments. Guilty as charged. I've always been the same. The moment Halloween is done, I can't help getting excited. Who doesn't like hot chocolate with candy canes and cinnamon-scented everything and covering the place in fairy lights and... Anna raised an amused eyebrow. This place is always covered in fairy lights. All right, so I have fairy lights up all year round. It's not a cardinal sin, is it? Polly shrugged, laughing. Her little cottage glowed with tiny lights as well, hanging round the front door and decorating the wooden mantel over the fire all months of the year. Christmas, however, was her time to go to town. She'd ordered another 4 vast boxes of solar-powered lights to decorate outside, and her brother, Lachlan, had promised her a freshly cut tree from his wood, which he was planning to deliver later in the week. Ever since she'd been a little girl, she'd wanted to make everywhere look as homely and cosy as possible, which hadn't always been easy, growing up in the chilly, dilapidated Applemore house. I'd better get off, Anna said, leaning over to rap Polly on the knuckles with a finger. Don't eat all the merchandise. Polly widened her eyes in mock horror. As if I would! It was typical of Applemore, she thought, serving a customer a few moments later, that even when she was busy, Anna was going to help her friend. Here in the village, everyone looked out for each other. There were no secrets in a tiny place like this. Yes, that might mean that everyone knew everyone's business, and you couldn't sneeze without hearing half an hour later on the grapevine that you'd caught a terrible flu and should be at home in bed. But if you really were sick, the villagers would rally together to help. It was that sort of place. Since she'd opened the farm shop in a collection of old outbuildings in the grounds of Applemore House, it had become a central hub for news and gossip, so she always knew what was going on, despite being outside the village itself. The village was busy in summer with tourists, but numbers were dropping at the village school as more and more of the houses in the village were bought up by second homeowners. If they weren't careful, the place was going to be taken over by people who didn't come from Applemore and who didn't have the same tie to the place as they did. Sales were noticeably down at the shop compared to the summer season, although the new baking courses that Matt, who'd taken on one of the other outbuildings, was offering, seemed to be a tremendous hit. There was a little gallery now too, where local artists worked together to sell their work, taking it in turns to work from the studio, which looked across the fields, and be on call for any visitors that popped in looking for a piece of artwork to take home as a souvenir from their visit to the Highlands. Polly sighed again. Despite the sparkles that surrounded her, she was feeling distinctly unshiny. She needed to get herself out of this slump. She knew what was wrong, but it was hard to admit it to herself. She loved living here, catching up on village gossip, being part of a little close-knit community. There was only one problem, and there was absolutely nothing she could do about it. Penny for them? Gavin, who ran the coffee shop through the little stone archway at the far side of the shop, strode towards her, lean and immaculately attired, as always, in a close-fitting black polo shirt and matching black jeans. What's up with your grumpy face? Nothing. Polly shook herself into a better frame of mind. Just having one of those days. We all have them, lovey, he said in his warm, deep Welsh accent. Leave Jen in charge of the till and come over and tell your Uncle Gavin all your troubles. Jenny, who worked part-time for Polly, was reorganising a display of Christmas-scented candles at the far side of the shop. She looked up, glancing from Polly to Gavin, and giving a brief nod. I'll man the decks, she said, putting one more candle at the front of the display and dusting herself down as she stood up. Right then, said Gavin, taking her by the hand and towing her across the shop, making her laugh. Sit yourself down there and I'm going to feed you coffee and you're going to tell me why my little Polly Sunshine is so gloomy today. You've been like this for days now. She sat down as instructed and watched as Gavin ducked behind the counter of the coffee shop, squeezing behind his boyfriend Tom to make